Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. John Bastow has been with us so many times before. He became a friend because of these interviews, and now that Robin is in New York, maybe they'll get a chance to actually meet in person for the first time. But certainly, one of the things about John, for those of you who know Fitness Made Simple, you know that he is associated with helping people get in shape, lose weight, get muscle tone, and everything. He's the guy who lifts his shirt without any embarrassment at all and lets people touch his abs. Well, women touch his abs.
I like that, without any embarrassments.
Well, yeah, I would be embarrassed to do it if it was me.
Oh, I know.
But the other thing I wanted to say about John, just kind of my own 2 cents here, is he is a guy who took control of his own life, not just with his health, but in the business world too. I mean, he does some really, really cool videos. He's got the Stew Show. Oh, forgive me, John. I'm forgetting the name of the Stew Show. But anyway, John's on the phone right now up in New York. I know I called a 516 area code, so he's on Long Island or something. And he is, in addition to a columnist, he's featured on Fox News, the Sirius radio show. He's got something called Covino and Rich. He's with them a lot. He's the host and producer of, here it is, New Media Stew. Thank you. And he is our fitness guru, John Bastow. Good morning, John.
Good morning, guys. Good to be back on AM Ocala Live.
Yeah, and he's such a good sport. I mean, he helped us out with celebrating Robin's 10th anniversary, and he called in on that. So thank you for that, John. How you doing?
Oh, I love you guys. I love you guys. And by the way, the echo does go away when you go live on the air.
Oh, good.
I hear you guys perfectly clearly now.
Oh,
Nice.
good. Now, what's new in your world? What are you doing new?
Well, actually, you pointed it out. I mean, in addition to fitness, which I guess I became known for, I got a chance to go back to my journalism roots, which I actually went to school for, and I have a show on New Media Stew, which is all about pop culture, entertainment, celebrity news, which is a lot of fun, and that's like an umbrella of different topics. Like, for instance, we sometimes do movie reviews, which is the New Media Stew movie review. Then we have New Media Stew Culture Pop, where you'll see me on the streets of New York, where Robin is right now, talking to everyone from businessmen, housewives, to pimps and drug dealers. You have no idea who's going to come up to the mic.
Pimps and drug dealers.
You have no idea who's going to come up to the mic on Culture Pop, and they will give the wildest. I mean, they are more entertaining, I think, than the topics, the people that we speak to.
Oh, I guarantee it. Yeah, streets of New York, baby.
So when you're doing this, do you set it up so that it's real obvious? I'm guessing there's a cameraman, or is it more covert than that?
No, it's actually straight. You can go to see it on dailymotion.com. We got to always shout out Dailymotion, awesome platform. Dailymotion.com/New Media Stew, and you go to the Culture Pop platform. You can also see it on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/John Bastow. But Culture Pop, the camera is very visible. It's a news show, and the people are, especially when we're in the streets, we're in either Grand Central Station or the streets, but when we're in the streets, people flock to the camera like, maggots to decaying meat. And the thing is, you get all sorts of types and crazies, and they're hysterical. And sometimes the police come by because it gets sort of crowded. It's real. They give their real, unvarnished, unfiltered opinions of the top pop culture news stories. Anything from their favorite TV shows to which celebrities post the sexiest selfies.
So one of the big pop culture stories.
I don't know which one.
One of the big pop culture stories this year is that Jimmy Fallon brought the Tonight Show back to New York.
Yeah.
That is a huge story, and actually we did on Culture Pop a whole episode on talk shows. Your favorite talk show host, and also favorite talk shows, and which ones do you think are going to last the longest? And Jimmy Fallon actually and Jimmy Kimmel were the two that were voted as the best at using social media to further their publicity of the show.
They use it as bits too. I mean, what they got the hashtag thing that Jimmy Fallon does, and
completely.
But is Colbert going to move the other one back to California now?
Oh, is he? I don't know.
I see. I just started a rumor.
Yeah.
I don't think they've decided on that yet. But where there's smoke, there's fire. So we're definitely keeping a tab on Stephen Colbert, because he's supposed to be on his talk show basically putting aside the character that you see him on right now on the Comedy Central show, and you're going to be seeing the real Stephen Colbert, which a lot of people, haven't seen. So that's something that's going to be interesting when he has his own late night talk show.
Well, I like how you said interesting, not a good or a bad thing, just interesting, John. Nice play around that one, man.
Yeah, you got to be politically correct. And I step back and I reserve my judgment, and I let the people who we interview on Culture Pop give their opinion.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing about the Stephen Colbert thing, that we're going to see the real Stephen Colbert. I've seen him interview people. I don't think he stays in character the whole interview.
Or is he that character?
Well, actually excellent points. Both have been brought up a lot in a lot of articles. Number one, he actually, I think, is on record as saying that it is a character and he's going to be himself. But that could also be a selling point of the show, just to get people to tune in to see how different it's going to be than the show he's on now that he made successful. Yeah. But I definitely agree with what Larry said, because when you are doing straight interviews with people, you can be, you can hold the character up for so long, but there's going to be times when the real you is going to shine through, when you're going back and forth with questions that are not totally planned. Stephen Colbert has been on New Media Stew before. I interviewed him at the Peabody Awards, and he's a really nice guy. He was great on the show. He did a great intro for the show, and he also had won a Peabody Award, which is basically, it's not, if you know about the Peabody Awards, it's these awards given out to people or shows in broadcasting. There's no exact number given each year. It's chosen by the Peabody Society, I think down in Atlanta, that gives them out, and and it's to no definite number of people, but it's just on merit in different areas. And he had won one and was just really, really gracious on the show.
Well, I saw him interviewing Clay Aiken, and Clay. This is Clay Aiken, the maybe soon-to-be congressman. I don't know how that race ever turned out, that primary, but it didn't seem like
they were neck and neck. When last I heard, they were neck and neck.
But it didn't seem like Stephen Colbert was putting on any kind of an act. I mean, it wasn't exactly like Andy Kaufman. When cameras would catch him, when cameras would catch Andy Kaufman. I know this is 100 years ago, but when they would catch him being himself, he was totally different than the guy we knew.
Yeah. Well, you have to be. Those are two very separate characters.
But I don't think Stephen Colbert is all that different from...
Well, I read an article where he may be closer to Johnny Carson than any yet, because he's so quick-witted, and he's going to maybe put that gap in there and bring that back.
I could see that, and also fill in for that demo, because I think that both Kimmel, even though they're older than a lot of their audience, I think both Kimmel and Fallon are very, very savvy at the current ways, as I talked about before, about using the current technology to engage their audience. And I think they've done that better than any talk show around. And granted, Johnny Carson didn't really have a chance to, because back in that day, he didn't have Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
He didn't need it.
Exactly, but I mean, a lot of people in today's technology age know more about Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon from seeing the bits they do, the viral bits that are only 2-3 minutes long. Right. I mean, look at the Sochi Wolf bit that Kimmel had done, that where he had a wolf walking around a makeshift Sochi dorm room, and had gotten and had gotten the luger. I forgot her name, but had gotten the luge, one of the luge stars, to pretend like she opened the door and said, "Oh, there's a wolf in the hallway." And meanwhile, that was a recreated Sochi dorm room or hotel room in the LA studio that they just made to look like that. and then all of a sudden, Jimmy Kimmel comes down the hall in skis in the reveal, saying, "Does anybody see my wolf? Does anybody see my wolf?"
Oh my goodness! Did you see the one, John, where Kimmel put together this fake twerking accident, where this girl was upside down twerking and she caught on fire?
Yes, and then he came out with the fire extinguisher.
Right.
First of all, everybody thought it was real. Everybody thought it was real. All the news agencies thought it was real, which was brilliant on his part, because he made it look like a cheap normal YouTube video. He didn't have any high-end production techniques, which was great. Everybody's reporting that this woman had this crazy twerking accident and was twerking upside down and then landed on a candle or something and set her whole apartment on fire. All of a sudden, once they committed themselves and looked like fools, evidently, is what happened. Jimmy Kimmel does the real, where he comes breaking through the doorway with a fire extinguisher, and she goes, "Thanks, Jimmy Kimmel."
Oh God!
Now, real quick, I want to have share a thought with you guys. When you, and now I know they're both relatively new, Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon. They've been around a while, but they're still relatively new. When you would watch Letterman, when he was at that point, it was the same kind of a guy, the same. He's fun all the time.
A lot of stick.
But Letterman actually proved himself as a great journalist, or the ability to be a good journalist, when he had a guest on that he wanted to dig deeper into, like Jimmy Carter, or like who's another one I saw, or even Bill O'Reilly, when Bill O'Reilly was on, and especially after the September 11th attacks, Letterman kind of stepped up to the plate and became more of a journalist, more of a guy who could ask the serious questions.
Okay.
Which I'm not saying these guys can't.
Well, that's what I was asking. What are you saying?
Well, because they're still young. They're still new. They're still new.
So they're not at that point yet, is what you're saying?
They haven't done it yet, have you? Maybe that's what.
Jimmy Kimmel's been on a long time. I mean, Jimmy Fallon's fairly new, but Kimmel's had that show for a bit. And the thing is, I think he keeps it more in the humor vein, and he doesn't delve necessarily into those topics yet.
You have to go back to the Man Show for that one, huh?
So in other words, not
those
that
deep conversations.
So what you're saying, John, is not that he couldn't do it, just that he chooses not to.
I think he likes to keep it light,
which is sort of what Carson did, right?
And I think that's his brand, and I think that he sticks true to his brand. And his brand is also, pranking, which is something that he does very well. Like when he did one thing he did, which was hysterical at Fashion Week. He had no layperson really knows the names of these fashion designers anyway. But even people that were attending the shows, he had all these fake fashion designer names made up, and he would have like pictures of people with doo-doo on their head, and he goes, and people were asking questions. They go, "This design is famous for putting dog crap on people's heads."
He said
and it's all different. And it's in all different shapes, and people are like, oh, and they go, do you think this is going to take Fashion Week by storm? And people are actually responding, oh, I think that's an interesting idea, and like, and other people say, you've got to be kidding, but I've never, and other people are like, I've never seen that. That's so unusual, that's definitely being fashion forward, pushing it.
Crap on the head.
That's crazy.
On the head. That's
crazy. If you're just tuning in, John Bastow is our guest, and again, we've known John forever. We're talking about everything other than fitness, though. This is, hey, John, this is the natural next transition for you. If there's anybody, one of the things that I feel is important to remember about Letterman is that he never replaced anybody. He wanted to, but he never got the late night.
Oh, when he got
he was the first one. The CBS show, he was the first one, and I think, well, that's about it, right? But so he never replaced anybody. You could do the same thing, John. You could enter into the marketplace, not replace him, but just take the take new media stew. Hook in with one of them, Fox or CBS or something.
Yeah, Fox has really dropped the ball, haven't they?
That would be from your mouth to God's ears. Let's put it that way.
Well, you had Arsenio Hall. Now you've got John.
There you go, and I'd like a little better than a syndication deal. Syndication is hard, man. I feel sorry for Arsenio with that, because getting guests and everything when you're a syndicated show nowadays is so difficult. I mean, because it just doesn't have the gravitas that the other shows do. Even a straight cable show, I think, is better than a syndicated show.
Yeah.
How's Conan doing, by the way, in the ratings and all that? How's he doing?
Conan's not bad. Well, I mean, you're talking about the TBS show, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, it's not the most talked about. Let's put it that way. But I mean, for TBS, it's good. It's good numbers. And the thing is, he is also. I think what's helping him is he's also now engaging with cable younger audience. Let's put it this way: he got to host the MTV Movie Awards.
Really?
When was the last time you saw one of the late night talk show hosts be hosting the MTV Movie Awards? Usually, you have like a Chelsea Handler doing that. You may have like a Kevin Hart, a comedian, doing that, but you don't have one of the mainstays doing that. And I think it was very, very smart of him to do it, because it, once again, makes him get involved with the tech-savvy younger audience, which I think is so key to being successful nowadays. You cannot just appeal to the TV audience anymore, because if you don't have that tech component, if you don't have the online component, you're going to die. You
could write a whole book about that. I mean, you are really on top of this, and you're one of the first people that I knew that really was.
That's very nice of you to say. I feel like I got into it so late, because, I mean, YouTube started, let's put it this way, Larry. YouTube started, I think it's between 7 and 8 years ago. I was very strong with Fitness Made Simple at that point, because I started Fitness Made Simple right when I graduated from school in 1998. So the thing is, I did not get started on social media, though, until 2000. I mean, YouTube, I didn't start my own channel until 2010. So I got started way, way late. If I had started the YouTube channel and started doing other things when Fitness Made Simple had first come out, I think that would have been a huge thing, because all the people that had already been on YouTube by the time I got started already had a foothold. So when I started, I was starting from scratch. And a lot of times online platforms, you think because you're known in the mainstream or you have some sort of recognition in the mainstream, you should be a step ahead. You're not.
Really?
You're not. You really have to start from scratch. It's a totally different audience, and you are totally invisible.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would have thought having that foothold would have been a little bit, at least an edge.
It doesn't, because it's a different audience that's watching a lot of times. And I mean, look at all the channels that have started that they tried to do this big YouTube thing, like with Shaq doing a channel, Shaquille O'Neal and stuff like that.
Right.
You don't hear about it anymore, because all of them, to some degree, did not perform. I want to say bomb, but I'm going to be politically correct, and I'm going to say did not perform up to the level.
You can say bomb. It's okay.
But I think
You can
Shaq's
say it.
problem is the cameras didn't tilt back that far. You could never see his face. Just a joke. Just a joke.
He did the whole Shaq comedy thing, but and it's great that you're trying to branch out that way. But the thing is, a lot of people said, I mean, one of the things with that was they said that they didn't put enough work into that show, or he didn't put enough effort. You got to work like a mother to do these things online. It's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week job. Period. With this online stuff, it's unbelievable, and you've got to be good at it. You've got to be basically responsive in answering comments. You've got to be responsive in being on Twitter, on Facebook, and you've got to make it real. You can't be phony on it, because the tech savvy generation is and the people that have started only knowing tech. I'm talking about 14 to 17-year-olds, which is the huge audience on YouTube.
Right.
That's like the biggest demo.
That's all they know.
You know. Exactly. So and they can also read phony very, very quickly, and they also can read plan. They want to see things. They would rather see you shooting something on a crappy camera in your living room, giving your real opinion of something, than a heavily produced, really slick production that they could see on TV.
So let me interject something about the 14 to 17-year-olds and maybe everything above in between. You have always been one of the champions against bullying. You've been doing this since it became popular to do this. Everybody's on this bandwagon now, but you've been doing it forever. And I'm guessing that you're constantly getting new people discovering you, because, especially guys who want to get in shape like you are. Mm-hmm. And if it's a young person and he's being bullied, and then he hooks up with your Facebook or your Twitter or something like that, you're always putting messages out there to just be bigger than the haters.
It's funny, because that's the other. I mean, we talked about the fitness stuff, and then obviously the pop culture and celebrity news with New Media Stew and Culture Pop, and I talk about that on Covino and Rich and Sirius XM. But the thing is, I also have a component of the motivational aspect, which, like you're talking about, like my wake up words that I do on Facebook, and things, and also on Twitter, where I try to be. I actually, what I try to do is be a little beacon of positivity on the web, because it's so damn negative. You could have the best video. You could have Mother Teresa saving a nation of children and dogs and everything, and the first comment would be sucks. Mm-hmm. And the second comment on that video would be...
He's right. It's terrible.
I know.
The second comment would be, she looks horrible in the outfit. I think she gained weight.
I bet if they tied their cell phones to those comments, they wouldn't comment. If you had to tie your cell phone number into these comments, they would be a little nicer.
Oh, come on. You are 1,000% right, because basically negativity withers and dies as soon as basically it's exposed, or you shine a light on the person, because the haters they're like cockroaches. They like to preach their negativity and spew venom, and then all of a sudden, as soon as you shine a light on them, they scatter like cockroaches.
It's like, sorry, no, I didn't mean to say that. That was somebody else. That wasn't me.
You notice most of the haters on Twitter, Facebook, and everything, they're the ones, number one, they don't even have a profile picture half the time. It's that default icon. And number two, if you go to their followers, they're the ones with the least amount of friends, the least amount of followers. That tells you something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. See, I wouldn't even dig that far.
They've got the anonymity that they think is okay. I'm just gonna blah. I hate the world.
Well, our first exposure to haters, it goes back to the beginnings of YouTube, and this is what Robin and I did. We went around Ocala. Now, John, you've never been here, I don't think, but Ocala's a small town. Ocala's a small town. So we went around Ocala with a camera. This is when film was still being used. We took pictures all around town, and then we scanned them, and we made this slideshow that we narrated, and it was called Ocala Slideshow. Simple as that. You would not believe the crazy negative things that people were putting on there. It's just like they were picking on us. They were picking on the city. They were picking on the things we chose to focus on. They were saying, how come you're not showing the slummy areas? Well, because they're not pretty.
Bottom,
crap on your head.
70 very, very, very nice, Dan. About I like the way you relate everything on the show. That was very, very clever. Going back to Jimmy Kimmel, very, very clever. But what I was going to say was many times people, and this is very true, and I have a video, if you go to the youtube.com/John Basa, there's a video called, it was basically dealing with bullies and haters, and it's how you come back and saying things in your mind to take power away from their words, because a lot of times, if you say something to me, I've always heard better and I've always heard worse. I have a very thick skin, so it's not going to affect me. And I also say, take it from where it comes, meaning like, look at the source who's saying it. Does that person deserve your credibility? Does that person merit
Good point.
you listening to what they're saying? Usually it's a useless waste of skin and hair who's spewing some negativity, and you just toss it off as soon as you see them. And it's somebody who's never accomplished. You never see like stars, or you never see the presidents of banks or the presidents of corporations writing nasty comments. Okay, it's always the loser. It's always the loser who's living in his mother's basement after age 30, sitting with his TV dinner, watching YouTube, and I'm write a nasty comment.
He's right. Yeah,
I know he's right.
He's in his food-stained sweatpants that he wore all day for being unemployed.
And here's the important thing, because we're having fun with this, but we're adults, so we kind of do have a thicker skin. But when you say those things, and you've got a youthfulness about you, John, so that I know that the kids can relate to you. So when they hear you say this, it really holds a lot of weight. You don't know how many kids you've probably turned around from being depressed or maybe even suicidal, simply by the wise things that you say, that they grasp, they hold on to that stuff.
Well, that's really nice to say, and if you do read the comments on that dealing with haters and bullies video, there are some really, I mean, on a bad day, I like to read those comments, because there are some really heartwarming comments about kids saying, wow, I sit next to this kid in class and he picks on me every day, and ever since you told me to look at him and take it from where it comes, I haven't been bothered once by him. Because it takes the power out of their words. And a lot of times, like for instance, one of the comments on the video is, "Keep talking behind my back because it's the perfect position to kiss my ass." You don't have to. You don't have to verbally say that to somebody. I come on at the end of the video, I go, you don't have to verbally say these things, but think them in your head as soon as these people say nasty things to you. Because what it does immediately is it neutralizes the negative words. It takes the power out of the hate, and that's what you want to do, because so many times the younger kids, look at Tyler Clementi, who was the Rutgers University student who jumped off a bridge because of bullying, okay? When you feel you are trapped and you have nowhere to go and there's nowhere to turn, and nowadays, back in the day, if a kid made fun of you at school, you could still go home and you were free for a few hours, and then you'd go back to school and it may start again, it may not start again. Yeah. Nowadays, you have no free point. You go home. First of all, if somebody bullies you, everybody knows about it because they're putting it on social media. So there's no secrecy, and then they start attacking you on your social media through either bogus accounts or their own accounts, whatever. So there's no relief. And if you don't have the support at home, if it's something secretive you're keeping, like Tyler Clementi didn't want some stuff about his personal life getting out, the thing is, then you feel trapped. And if that eats away at you day in and day out, you think there's no other way out than to just take your life. And how awful does it have to be that you feel that's the only escape? And John,
you're probably going to be real humble with your reply to this, but I'm guessing that there are some stories we have not heard because somebody heard your message. You may not realize, you'll never realize this, that somebody didn't jump off a bridge, and that name will never become part of your awareness.
Well, first of all, it's very nice to say, and I hope that is the case, because the reason I take time to do the bullying videos and the motivational videos, which don't necessarily get the hundreds of thousands of views, although some of them get very good views, that the pop culture stuff does, is because I think that as long as they can help one person, two people, and from the comments they help many more than that, not feel like they're trapped by these useless wastes of skin and hair who are basically talking out of their own frustrations and failures.
Because they got crap on their head.
And have nothing to do with people.
Yeah,
and have nothing to do with the people. They're talking about because of their own negativity. So what I say to do a lot of times is if you could do one thing. I said, first of all, no matter what you do, take the bully and take the negative person out of the equation. You've got to do what's best for you. If it's best for you and you feel it's best to confront them and say something, by all means do that, because a lot of times, as soon as you confront somebody, they collapse like a house of cards when confronted with their stupid words.
John, we're up against the clock. We're Fox affiliates, so we've got to get to the news. It's always great to speak to you. Call Robin and have coffee with her, and then call back, and we'll have you on again. This was a great interview.
Well, you guys are awesome, and as I said.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. Pro-Russian rebels celebrating in Ukraine after 2 regions vote overwhelmingly for independence.
Kiev says the vote is illegal and says that if regions do secede, it would be a catastrophe. Russian President Vladimir Putin had earlier urged rebels to postpone the referendums. The Kremlin now says the vote should be implemented in a civilized manner and without violence.
Fox Radio's Jessica Gallagher. His first public comment since his racist remarks in a taped conversation came to light. LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling apologizing on CNN, but claiming he's not a racist.
I made a terrible, terrible mistake. And I'm here with you today to apologize and to ask for forgiveness.
Sterling now banned for life from the NBA, which also says it won't